Good evening. Evening, very good. Hello also for the rest. Hello, hello, hello. I would like to start with a question. History is important, raise your hand. Say history is important, okay? It's not important. No one? Everything? Then?
History, why is it important?
Yeah.
Because we learn from history.
We learn from history. Okay, any other reasons why is it so important? You can answer in Serbian or English. I don't know if you know Serbian, but you can. Why is it so important? Does everybody understand English, by the way? Yes? Okay, good. Why is it so important? Because of the future. And how is that? What happened in the past is important for the future. Okay, okay. Okay, since you all love history so much, let's start with a little quiz, right? See what level of intelligence we have in the audience here. Okay, there we go. Where did the first form of democracy ever in Europe take place? Where was that? Athens. Very good. When was that in Athens?
6 centuries.
Almost, it was 500, what? Yeah, 505 before Christ. 505. And it was not a representative democracy as we know now, you know, that we elect people and they represent us. It was a direct democracy. That means everybody was a politician. Actually, the word politician in Greek means the same as the word civilian. Well, no, okay. The women, the slaves, and the children were not part, but for the rest, everybody was. Everybody was. All right. Yes, very good. Second question. What?
Also, the people that didn't participate in the political life were being called, remember it, idiots.
Idiots. Yes, if you didn't participate back then. Yes, that's true. That's true. I like the word that the politicians meant the same as a civilian back then. But it was only for the men. Back then, you know. Second question. Who knows what the charter of the forest is? The law of the woods. Who knows what it is? 1217. I didn't know myself, but 1217, maybe you know 1215, the Magna Carta. In 1217, very good. In 1217 there was an amendment that the King of England said from, you don't, it's okay, it's okay, you don't, it's okay. I'm gonna just ask like this. We don't have to have a whole conversation yet. Don't worry, this is just a quiz. Okay, so the rule was that the King of England said, from now on until eternity, all the forests in England belong to all the people. He wrote that in a law, 1217. Officially, it's still a law in England. I'm just saying officially, right? Last question, then we're done with the quiz. Who knows which was the first country in the world that had a law of tolerance? That means that the government said, no matter what color you are, religion you are, you're welcome in our country. Which was the first country in the world to have this? Who do you think? The first country in the world who had an act of tolerance?
United States.
No. 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 Poland. Yes, I don't know what happened since then, but Poland had a law. Just all the noblemen, they had a law in 1573, yeah, that says from now on, everybody in our country can come, no matter what color or religion they have. Officially, it's still a law in Poland. Officially, yeah. This is 1573, ladies and gentlemen, which is the 16th century. And who died in the 16th century? Hieronymus Bos, very good. Voila, we are here. My name is Lucas de Man. I do many things in my life, but I'm also the city artist of Den Bosch. Den Bosch is a very beautiful town in Holland, and I'm from Belgium, so that already. And the title says, for 4 years I'm the city artist of that city. Well, last year, they celebrated for 1 year the fact that the famous painter Hieronymus Bosch died 500 years ago. He was walking on the street. They are celebrating the fact that he's dead, right? And then Bosch did it with 8 million euros they spent on celebrating his death. City marketing, go, 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 go. They came to me because I'm the city artist. We have some money. Do you want to do something with Hieronymus Bosch, our famous painter? So I said no, you know. And they said, why not? He's famous. I said no, because he's dead. He's a medieval guy, you know. There's so much happening now. I want to be busy with the now. But they said, come on, you know, we have some money and he's famous. I said, no. But they were persistent. They came every day. They came to my house to say, you have to do something with Hieronymus Bosch. I said, no. And I took off my t-shirt. You know, I do that when I'm frustrated. And I was walking around and they said, please do something. And then my mentor, Matthijs Rumke, said, Lucas, chill. Put your t-shirt back on. So I did. He said, look, you don't have to do anything with Hieronymus Bosch, the famous painter, if you don't want to, but you like the present so much and the future. I challenge you, look at the time when Hieronymus Bosch lived, the beginning of the 16th century. Look at that time and maybe you will find what you didn't know you were looking for. Could be the title of a song, it wasn't. And now we are here in Belgrade and I'm talking to you. 2 things I learned from my little study of history. First, there's so much I don't know. Second of all, Hieronymus Bosch was a visionary. It's not my words in the brochure about Hieronymus Bosch that he is a visionary. They wrote it down. So I looked up the word visionary. What is a visionary? Suzanne Neiman, the famous philosopher, she says there are 2 definitions of a visionary. First, he or she who shows the world as it is. Second, he or she who shows the world as it can be. Then Bosch did the first painting, maybe, Garden of Earthly Delights, you know, showed the world as it was back then. People were afraid, very afraid. They thought the end of the world was coming. So he, at the same time, 70 years' time, it's the life of one general normal man who drinks a lot. And you know, in 70 years' time, the 500 years before changed into the 500 years we know now. In only 70 years' time. I'm going to show you, I'm going to prove it to you with this map. You can also follow there. It's exactly the same map, but through the video. So, okay. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is Europe in the beginning of the 16th century. The first thing we notice, the pink Ottoman Empire. The Muslims. It was huge, the Muslim Empire, the Ottoman Empire. You know, they started in 1415, they conquered Constantinople, Istanbul. They kept going, and in 1527, they were at the gates of Vienna, Austria. And look at Europe, the west of Europe, scattered and afraid. They were afraid because the Muslims, their empire was bigger than ours, their cannons were bigger than ours, and they were more tolerant than the Catholics. Because they had Jews, they had other kinds of Christians, and the Catholics here only liked the Catholics. Even Erasmus, the famous pacifist, said you should never attack someone. War is bad, unless it are Turkish people. Then you can shoot them whenever you want. Erasmus said that. And what I didn't know is this empire stayed this big until the 19th century. I mean, Greece, look at Greece. We always think Greece, an old, ancient culture. Greece got its independence in 1832. That means that the Greeks are younger than the Belgians. We are like the children of Europe, you know, but they are younger. So the first thing we have to know, the beginning of the 16th century, is afraid of the Turkish people. Look, I brought some Turkish people here. I thought I'm not going to be too cliché, so there we go. Second thing we have to remember, it's the end of the feudal system. You know the feudal system? For 500 years they had the feudal system. God is everything. God created the world in 6 days and 1 day rest. And the other days, what he did after, we don't know. But 6 days, he worked very hard. And then he gave all the power to the priests and the bishops and so on. Then you had the kings and the noblemen. Then you had no one for a long time. And then you had the common people, like me and some of you. And the common people worked on the land. They could not own the land. They worked on the land and they prayed every day not to go to hell. That's the feudal system. But two things happened that changed this system in Europe. First of all, these two men came about. Do you recognize these men? Who are these men? You recognize them? It's too small. To recognize them. Bring them closer. Look at him. This man, you recognize him maybe from your youth. 500 years ago. This is Columbus, Christopher Columbus, and this is Amerigo Vespuccio. And Christopher Columbus and Amerigo Vespuccio, they set out to find a new way to find India. They did not find India, they found something else, a country they didn't know. Columbus, so stubborn, he said, it is India. And then here Amerigo Vespuccio said, no, it's not India. You know what, just given my name, we'll get over it. So they named it America. And these two men, what they did in America was a lot of slaves, of course, right? But also, in 30 years' time, they took more gold out of America than there was in the whole of Europe. So suddenly, it was nothing to do with who had the most land. It also came about who had the most money. Second thing that happened to change this feudal system, the plague. 1/3 of the population in Europe died. 1/3. It was amazing, you know. A lot of people were afraid. They were fleeing away. And the king said, no, stay. You have to work on my land, you know. I need you guys. You're low. We don't pay you. So please stay. You know what? I'll give you some land. You can make some profit on your own, but please stay. So suddenly a new system came because of the plague, a system where people could make profit. So a system of profit and money is called capitalism. It started 500 years ago. I didn't know. I thought it was 150 years old, but it started in the 16th century. So we have afraid of the Muslims, we have a capitalistic system, and we have indulgencies. You know what it is? It's a very strange, it's amazing Catholic system. So, when you were in the 16th century, the idea was you have to be very virtuous, good and bad. You have to pray every day, you know, and then you might go to heaven. That was the idea. Suddenly, the church came to you and said, we have a new thing. You can do two things. You can do the whole, you know, virtuous praying thing, or you can buy this piece of paper and you go directly to heaven. And if you have enough money, you can buy it for your children, your grandchildren. They all go to heaven. Who cares? For the people, they thought it was the end of the world. It was over, you know, because the priests suddenly were only busy with money and not with virtue. So people thought it was over. I mean, for us, it's almost impossible to believe that there's a system based on pieces of paper that are worth nothing. And people exchange it, and some people get very rich, and some people don't, and there's no morale. We don't know the system, of course. But back then, it started. There was no more, it was just about money. But luckily, ladies and gentlemen, you also had visionaries of the second definition. People who said, whoa. There's something rotten in the state of Europe. This is not correct. Visionaries. And I'm going to tell you who lived at the same time. You know all of them. I'm going to show you. Look, this is Hieronymus Bosch, right? Yeah, you recognize him from the beard. Yeah. This is Erasmus, the humanist. He said God is important, but men have to think about themselves. And 500 years ago, he said women should be able to vote. Women should have right for education. 500 years ago. Huh? Then, in Italy, we have, for example, you recognize him, Machiavelli, the first political thinker, he who said, how should we lead a state? But nobody knows or remembers that 500 years ago, he said, the best way to lead a state is when a leader gives a lot of power to the people. 500 years ago in his second book. Then, in Poland, we have Copernicus. He who discovered that the earth turns around the sun and not vice versa. He was so afraid to admit that he discovered it that he didn't tell anyone for 25 years. And the evening before he died, he told a Flemish scientist, a Belgian guy. Then the whole world knew about it, of course. And then here we have Thomas More with Utopia, you know, in England, utopian thinking. He wrote a book that was called Utopia, about what if we have no private property. 500 years ago. And then I'm missing Luther. Oh, sorry, he's still in his box probably. Here we go. So, Luther. They are now celebrating the Luther year in Germany. 3 billion euros they are spending on the fact that Luther 500 years ago had 95 questions about these indulgences, these pieces of paper you can buy. 95 questions he nailed at the Wittenberg University door. The Germans love it. They are spending 3 billion. They're making puppets of Luther. Why? We don't know, but they are making puppets of Luther, you know. But what he did was he caused the biggest rupture with his questions. He didn't want a revolution, Luther. He just had a lot of questions. And what he did was a schisma between the Catholics and the Protestants, you know. He divided the Dutch and the Belgians, being a German. You know? Yeah, man. But the great thing, ladies and gentlemen, these people knew each other's work, and there were also people in other countries, you know. They knew each other because of a new invention called the printing press. It was a great new thing, 1450, and then it went on. Beginning of the 16th century, people could share their work in their own language, and it went so fast, it didn't take 2 years to write a book anymore. You could just publish it, boom, 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 and everybody knew each other's work. That's why they caused this huge turnover from an old system to a new system. This is the first generation of European thinkers. And now, we are 2017. That was a time of transformation, huge time of transformation. Who thinks that we also now in a time of transformation? Who believes we are transforming? Some people there, okay. From where to where? What is the biggest transformation we're going to have? What is changing so much? Except for your waterfront. I don't want to talk about the waterfront. That's too particular. The big change, what is going to change? What are the big changes that's going to happen? No, what is happening? Tell me, positive or negative? The temperature of the earth, yeah. Come in. Sit wherever you want. Okay, so I have climate change. What else? What? Migration. There's going to be a lot of more migration than ever before. Although in the past we had so much migration, but there will be more. This side? Nation? Like what? Less nation, more nation? Multinational nations. Oh, multinationals. I never thought of that one. We are multinational. Okay. Because I was wondering, you know, I had to study this. I never paid attention, but because I had to, you know, with all these people do something with Jerome's boss, and my mentor said, study, I was astonished by the resemblance, you know. Printing press, internet. The end of a system, feudal system after 500 years, because there was no morale, now we have the end of the capitalistic system. It's still very present, but visionaries. And now we have also a lot of people in the world. Okay, this was my question. You know, look, my generation, and there are people who are 20, 30 something, and some of them are sitting here, we have to take over in the future. It's not because we want to, I mean, it's up to us now. We have to run the cities, we have to choose, and with what vision are we going to do that? What is do we have a vision? Do we believe in something, or is it everybody for themselves? It's just go, 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 as long as you have money, 2 children gone, done. 1.6 children, actually, if you're... doing it correctly, which is very difficult to create, by the way. You know? I wanted to know, sometimes I feel very alone. I mean, I live in 2 countries already, and it's still Belgium, Holland, and for me still, all my friends are going for this, as long as you have a lot of money and career, you're happy, you're doing well. I'm like, is this it really? Everybody's going for themselves? Or is there more? Are there visionaries of today? And now this is very important. A visionary, in my definition, is someone who has a vision upon the world and acts upon that vision. Not just talking, also doing. Not blah blah, also boom boom. Have a vision. Doesn't have to be the greatest vision, but just a vision and act upon that vision. I wanted to know. So what I did is I searched for visionaries, people in who doing things, and said, come, watch what we're doing, through the internet, embassies, whatever, everywhere of my generation. And then after a few months, I found 25 people in 17 cities in 8 countries, from all kinds of disciplines, not only art, but also journalism, entrepreneurs, whatever. And then I did what all the people in the 16th century also did. I went on a journey. When I graduated from university, I had to write a quote in the yearbook. My quote was the following: "Hooray, we do not have to fight. We are the first generation ever that does not have to fight, because we are free. We can say what we want, we can do what we want, we can think what we want, and nobody gives a damn." Look, I'm a very active person, right? I'm always on the move, I'm always organizing and creating stuff, 24/7, go, 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 go. But the whole time when I'm doing this, in my head, there's this little voice shouting at me. Who cares, Lucas? What difference does it make what you do? You know the voice? Or is it because I'm from Belgium? No, I wanted to know, you know, it's up to us. But how, you know? So I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not only going to interview people of my own age, I'm also going to talk with some professors. You know, they can help me with the past and with the now, and maybe, you know, maybe I will figure it out, you know, what is happening now. This, for example, this is Professor Trapman. He's from the Erasmus University in Rotterdam. And he said about this time in one sentence the following. Professor, please.
Now we are so free, we are bored.
For the people who are not paying attention, one more time, please.
Now we are so free, we are bored, and we go
Thank
to...
you, just a sentence. Thank you. This is Professor de Kouter. He's from the university in Belgium, different universities. Calls himself an angry activist as a professor. And he said about this time the following. Professor?
Why would my students and my daughters stand up? They are spoiled out of their wits. They go from screen to screen, and they have a very nice daddy too, who loves everything, and a very nice mom, and they have everything, literally everything they can dream of.
So they said that we are indifferent, that we are lazy, that we really don't care, that we occupy ourselves more with our burnouts and stress of choice and making money than with the world. And that we all have the feeling, what difference does it really make? And that while there is so much happening in the world today, right, Professor?
10 years before the time window is closing to stay and remain under 2 degrees warming on the planet. 2 degrees warming is already very bad. So we are going for heavy weather, literally, and in a figurative speech also.
But
so we are really heading for catastrophe. I mean, this people should know.
This is Polka. Polka is the artistic director of the Athens Biennale in Athens. Big manifestation every 2 years of art and science. Not sponsored by the government, of course. I mean, it's Greece. And we met him the day that Greece was going to hear if they could stay in the European Union or not. You know, the Brexit day. And he said about this time the following. Polka?
Usually we are afraid of the unknown. And this is the first time in my life, probably in all our lives, that we do not know what the future will bring. It's the time that history reverses its way and goes backwards. So there is a lot of regression, a lot of anger, a lot of prejudice, intolerance, racism, even fascism, again.
in Spain, I'm not worried about fascism, but I'm worried about the Netherlands or Germany, because they still don't have a very active citizenship that more or less tries to understand what is going on.
There's something boiling in Europe that I do not even dare to name it.
How do you mean?
I'm afraid to name it.
Why?
By naming something you created.
I don't think humanity has so much time on the planet already.
How do you mean?
The world is becoming hotter, and this is scientific, we can only get 60 more harvests from the soil.
In the
60
world?
in the world, yeah.
So that's 60 years.
60 harvest, 60 years.
And then?
I don't know. Nobody's thinking about this. Nobody's planning for it.
I think we are at the moment, without wanting to be too dramatic, but since in the last couple of years, I think for the first time in my life, I have the feeling, okay, this could be a moment in time where the famous children and grandchildren will say, what have you done at that time? What have you done at that time? What have you done at that time? Well, if I look soberly at the situation in the world, I think we should not sit here and give interviews. We should do something else. On the other hand,
like what, for example, Florian? Huh? What should we do? Make the world better? Huh?
Making the world better. Leave that to God.
We need progress, or we will go backwards. I mean, you never stay still. Or you go backwards, or you go forward. So let's go forward.
Yeah, but to where?
To something better than what we have right now.
Leave that to God.
Caponi, of your face. Yeah, so this is a... But also a count. He's a nobleman. He lives in Italy, in Florence, by the way, in this 14th century big palazzo. You know, he got it from his daddy, and his daddy got it from his daddy, and so on. He claims to be the great-great-great-great-grandson of Machiavelli himself. But the great thing is, when you enter his palazzo, there's a big sign that says, Professor Niccolo Caponi, full-time cynic. And I told him, I'm not here for cynicism, I'm here for visions. Okay?
To have visions, you also need great ideas.
Ah, voilà, okay.
And we don't have any great ideas today.
People don't want to hear new ideas, especially ideas that threaten their ontological presuppositions, that require that they go into their subconscious and ask, is my understanding of the world true or is it false? Is what I'm doing good or evil? They don't want to do this. Most people don't like to do that.
Why not?
It's too painful.
Do you know what I hate so much? It's so difficult to disagree with people like Caponi. Cynicism, no, true. Cynicism is like romance for the advanced. The feeling, what can I do, doesn't come from laziness or indifference. It comes from insight. You know, you say, right? It's important for the future. Okay, I studied. I know one thing: we learn very little from history. We remember nothing. First of all, we don't remember the facts, but also we don't learn from what went wrong there. Every time we tear down a wall, we build one up somewhere. Every time we think, okay, never this. A few years later, people go like, oh, maybe we should do this again. And it's always the same. Everything we think of now has been thought of 500 years ago also. I'm going to prove it to you. There are accidentally 2 books lying here, so I'm just going to grab them. First of all, Utopia by Thomas More. This is not the original cover, by the way. I'm opening this at a randomly chosen page, this one, and then I'm reading out loud. This is 100 years ago. Yeah? There we go. And I see a bunch of rich people conspiring under the pretense of public interest to settle their own affairs. Everything they cook up is meant in the first place to keep what they have misappropriated. Because rich. This is and then 50 Shades of Grey. I don't know what it tells about today, but it is true. About a young woman who wants a spanking. Okay, so I'm opening this book at a randomly chosen page, and there we go. This is 500 years ago. What is more foolish than a candidate who, before elections, humbly appeases the public, buys popularity with payments, and pursues applause, but once elected, does not keep any of his promises? It's 500 years ago. Did anything change? Look, sometimes I have the feeling that Michael Jackson, when he was writing, "Heal the world, make it a better place," that he was very naive at the time. What do you think, Professor?
I agree,
voilà.
but people like Erasmus, they had the idea, which is much too optimistic, that when you are studying humanist and classical sources, and that means also moral writings of the old philosophers and the gospel, that you automatically will become a better man, a better individual. But that's not true. No. That's too optimistic.
So we will become pessimistic. Who here, when he or she looks at the world, is pessimistic? Oh, okay. Some people. I don't know what kind of istic I am. Not yet. But I wanted to know, you know, pessimism. I met all those people. They are very active. So I asked them, you guys, who of you is pessimistic?
So I'm pessimistic,
getting more and more pessimistic.
Guys. Not at the same time we discussed this, right? Okay, one by one. Lieven, you're the oldest one. You can start. I'm sorry. Lieven?
So I'm getting more and more pessimistic in theory. It makes me, in a sense, more and more optimistic in practice. Why? And I think people should start to see this, and I hope maybe, but it might be too late, that people will follow me. After 200 years of optimism, maybe we should become pessimists and then start to act.
I'm not pessimistic, you know, in anything. I mean, I can't somehow. I mean...
Because of the lifestyle?
Yeah, there's maybe one thing, like, you know, I'm in my work, you know. In my free time, I can be pessimistic.
It is my anger, my despair, in a sense, that makes me act. Because I really much prefer to sit in my garden, having a nice book, having a nice glass of wine, poetry, and write some poetry. That is a lot better. I mean, I hate activism. Being in meetings, I hate meetings.
You know, the more activist you become, the more like cynical you become.
It's always more easy to imagine the end of the world than a different world.
I think I'm going to go for the hope. Yes, we have to hope. You cannot think that things are going to get worse. I mean, there is no need. It's not practical.
We can win the battle. Yeah, there is hope. We are growing old. We are going to be given the economy. We are going to be given the government. So it has to, like, this game has to continue with our rules. So we are now making sure that we have some rules, you know?
No, look, I understand that. I understand that it's up to us. We have to take over. But do you honestly believe that we can change things for the better, you know?
You have to spend time, invest time, develop strategies, apply. You dedicate your time, and after that, you can maybe change it.
Maybe change. Did you maybe change it? That was, you know what I found most interesting? I traveled in all these countries. I meet 25 people, all very active. None of them was idealistic. None of them said, yes, we can, we're going to make a better world. None of them. And so they were very active, very passionate about what they were doing. And then I figured out, my generation is caught up in a dilemma. On one hand, it makes no difference what we do. On the other hand, it does make a difference what we do. This is the dilemma we are caught up to. On one hand, we learn from history. Nothing really changes, you know. The corrupt will be corrupt, the leaders will lead, and the rest, you know, try to fight for their own. This is, I mean, it's not cynical, it's what we learned. On the other hand, we do things. We get up every morning, we choose a profession and sometimes love, you know, we go for it. How do you make sure you deal with this dilemma? How do you make sure you don't become this cynical count in a palazzo somewhere in Italy? But also not this, you know, young girl running off a mountain with a guitar saying, I just sang a song, the world is better. No. How do you deal with this? For me, it was very difficult for a long time. You know, I was always going this side or that side, and I didn't know anymore. But then on my journey, it happened on my journey, I found the key to deal with this dilemma. It happened to be in Belgium, okay, with a Belgian artist, Simon Allemeers. And Simon told me this. Simon?
It's not about making it a better world, but the first step is just to make it into a sort of world, into a sort of society. It's not about improving society, it's just about creating society. I think that is there is no society if you do nothing. There's no society if you don't communicate, and there's no, you have to, constructed from zero on continuously again. And it's not about improving the structure, it's about making sure that there is some structure to talk about.
Okay, it sounds very simple what he says, but for me it was mind-blowing. What is disease number one under 35 years old? People under 35, what is the most common disease? Stress. Anxiety attacks, stress. Why? Because, I mean, we have everything, you know, we are the most spoiled generation ever. Our parents fought for freedom. Why do we have so much stress? Because everything is possible, and at the same time, not at all. That's what I mean, my mother, right? I love my mother, but still, when I was 16 years old, which is a while ago, when I was 16 years old, at my birthday, she said, Lucas, she knows my name, Lucas, I'm going to give you one life lesson. I thought, yes, now it's going to, Pen, tell me, mother, tell me, mother. She said, you can do whatever you want, and I will support you in everything as long as you're happy. And my father said, was the best conversation with my father ever, but that's a different show. That's it, as long as you're happy. And it's terrible for a mother to tell you that. Because when are you happy? Happy has nothing to do with the feeling of joy, right? Because if it is, you just take some drugs every morning, a lot of people do, or every night, it depends on what kind of person you are, and then you're happy every day. But that's nothing to do with, you know, happy in the real sense of the word. It comes from a Greek word, happy, right? And in Greek, if you translate that word, it says, feeling like you conquered something, feeling like you accomplished something. And there's the tricky part. When do you know that you accomplished something? And when is it good enough to really feel happy and to make my mother proud again? You know, how much do you have to accomplish? Is there a level of accomplishment you have to reach? And here it comes. We have no taboos officially. We are free officially, even in Serbia. Officially, we are free. Unofficially, hell no, we're not. The biggest taboo we have today is not to fail. Because otherwise you're a loser, right? It's the word of 2016, you are a loser. We have people who say loser, whatever, they're all losers, you know, because you have to do it for yourself. You have to stand up, you have to conquer, you have to be the best you can be. And if you're not the best you can be, apparently you're a loser, you know? It's the whole philosophy. It's crazy, but that's the philosophy. So if you fall down, you get up, you take a pill or a psychiatrist, and you become the best you can be. If you don't do that, you're a loser. So what you see is a lot of young people trying to be the best, better, 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 stress, die. That's what's happening right now. Because we don't know when we are better or the best. We don't know. We always think, is there more and more and more? So you don't have any ground. And you have a lot of people who say, what we do is try to make a better world, right? It's a common sentence. All the politicians say it. Google says it. Facebook says it, you know. A lot of people here think we are trying to make a better world. It's ridiculous. It's either arrogant to say that you're going to make a better world, or it's naive to say you're going to make a better world. Because every time it's better for someone, it's not better for the other one. So you don't know. And this is the great thing about what Simon says. He says it's not about making a better world, it's about making a world. Step by step. Not a better world, that's arrogant. You know, you cannot breathe if you always try to be the better, 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 best. But if you just do, if you try to take a step by step, you can breathe. The fact that we are here now is a piece of world. Whether it's better or not, we don't know. If it's going to change something, we don't know. But that's the great thing. You never know. You just take a step. It's the most humble thing you can do, to take a step. But whenever you take a step, take the fucking step. You know? Because that's the only thing you can do. So what Trump is doing in the States, you know, making it a better world, and what we're doing here, making it a better world, is the same thing. We are not better than him, and trust me, he's not better than we are. At all. But as long as we think we are better, we're never really going to accomplish anything. It's the moment we do that we create a society. This feeling, this insight, that it's not about creating a better society, but about creating a society, was the first insight I got on my journey. This is the dancing part for people who like dancing. Do you know this song? They won. You remember which year they won? 74. Very good, sir. Which country? They're from Sweden. Very good. Martin, they got it. They got it. They got it. Thank you. Okay, look, I know some people really like structure and they like to know how long is this Belgian guy going to talk. So for those people, this part in the show, so you got the history lesson, gone. I put all my things that I want to tell you in 5 chapters. You already got the first chapter, gone. It was a long one. Now, shorter and faster. We have 4 more chapters to go. Chapter 2 is called Engin. This is Engin. He's from Turkey, Istanbul. How old do you think Engin is? 32, 35. Okay, he's 22 years old. He's from Istanbul, I told you. 22 years old, but he already has 33 people working in his company for him. All the people are 18 till 30 years old. They're all technology guys, you know. And he has this big, they make a lot of money. In the office, there's a basketball court in the office, so can play basketball and work at a computer at the same time. It's crazy. But why did I visit him? Because they have a manifest with their company. Everybody who works there has to sign the manifest. The manifest is 1/3 of the money they make and 1/3 of the time they have each week they spend on projects for society. They're not making money, they spend on projects for society. Everybody who's working there has to do this. And I was talking with Engin about our time. I was saying, oh, it's difficult, you know, and I showed him the dilemma. I had those screens with me everywhere I went. Look at the dilemma, you know, and I was frustrated. And he said, Lucas, put your shirt back on. He said, look, it's an amazing time. It's an amazing time for our generation. But we do not have to be afraid to step out of the, to break, how did you say it again, Engin?
We are saying,
yeah?
Let's remove all barriers.
Oh, the barriers.
All, whatever separates disciplines. And let's create a mixture. Let's create different smaller communities, ad hoc communities that gets fed from different disciplines. That's what's going to make you super powerful.
Hey, Engin, all the people who work in your office, right? They're all technology guys. Would you say then that the word technology is the most important word of our generation?
Technology changes every year. You buy a phone, there's a new internet connection and a new generation is coming the other year. So you cannot fetishize the technology. It's just a tool. It's not the purpose. So the purpose is always changing offline because that's what matters.
They are most known for their project called 140 journos. It's 140 signs, it's like a tweet, right? They did this project, they started this project with the Gezi Park riots in Istanbul. I don't know if you remember 2012, for the first time ever, left and right parties protested against the government. Erdogan, right? They were protesting, but Erdogan sent the police, censored the press, you know, nobody could write about it. Engin was standing there in the Gezi Park and he started tweeting. 2012, Twitter was still, you know, he started tweeting about what was happening there. And he sent to friends, come here and help us tweeting because all the journalists are into jail, you know. So 100 people came to tweet about what was happening there. Erdogan tried to shut down Twitter. Back then it didn't work. Now you can shut it down. Back then it didn't work. But they saw the power of social media. So they said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to elaborate this. We're going to make sure that we are free with social media. Now they have in Turkey 1,000 paid journalists working for them only on social media. All young people, they show what is happening in Turkey to the world. Because I don't know if you know, things are happening in Turkey, a lot of things, you know. Even Engin, he's on a list now. I mean, to be honest, you're not a good, I mean, in Turkey, if you're not on the list, you're not part of, you know, the real people. So he's on the list as well. They want to arrest him. They didn't find him because he's somewhere hidden. But he runs the network anyway. We invited him to come to Amsterdam. He said, no, I have to fight for my country here. So he's using this network to do projects. I'm going to give you one example that they did with his network. It's called nuclear energy, the nuclear power plant project. In Belgium, we have like 7 nuclear power plants, and we love them because you can open them and then you close them because there are some fractures, and then you open them again and then you close them because there are political pressure, so it's a great thing. In Turkey, they saw this hype of nuclear power plants, so they said, you know what? We also want to have a nuclear power plant in Turkey. They had none. So there was an announcement on television, there's going to be a nuclear power plant, and that's it. Engin was watching this announcement. He said, do we want to have a nuclear power plant? I mean, 2015, is it still from today? Let's have a discussion, a public discussion about a power. That was not allowed. You could not have a public discussion about things like that. But he still wanted to have it. He wanted the people to be part of those decisions. He came up with a plan. Engin, can you tell people the plan that you...
There is this famous tower in Istanbul called the Galata Tower.
Yeah.
It's a very significant monument in the city. Everybody likes it. And we said, you know, this tower kind of looks like the Twitter timeline. It's vertical. So, you know, the light bulb. And we said, let's turn this into a Twitter timeline then. One day, overnight, we came with projectors. We mapped the tower, you know, and we kind of made a kind of PR before it with 140 journals. We reached to parliamentarians, we reached to civil society, we reached to celebrities. They're following the account, so we sent them direct messages. And we said, this is our hashtag. Can you please participate to the discussion? So we released all these hashtags, the celebrities, parliamentarians, even the constructor of the nuclear plant, the company who won the bidding, a Russian company, participated to the discussion with the PR team. And we made a kind of survey, public survey. You know what? We reached 8 million people without spending one dime.
Remember this one? They also won. This one won. Remember which year? 2002. From which country? Turkey. 1, 2, 3. Chapter 3. Remember when I was standing here with my fingers doing a quote? Hooray, we have nothing to fight for. Stupid. Of course we have things to fight for. And I was talking with Professor de Kouter about what can we fight for, and he said, Lucas, he knows my name. He said, Lucas, you have to, especially if you're talking in Belgrade, you have to talk with the people about the enclosure of the commons. I was like, what? He said, the enclosure of the commons. He's a very dramatical professor. The enclosure of the commons. Anybody an idea, the enclosure of the commons? What does it mean? What? We are quoting too much. Oh, the enclosure of the commons, we are quoting too much. Okay, no. Commons means that what belongs to everyone. That's commons. So what belongs to everyone. For example, what? The waterfront does not belong to everyone, apparently. Yeah, I hope it will, but it's either from the government or it's from this sheikh from whatever who has a small penis, apparently. But no. What belongs to everyone? Give us an example. What belongs to everyone is no air. Air is not from everyone. Air, you can buy air. Did you know that? First of all, you buy taxes, so it's not from everyone. And did you know, for example, that Belgium buys air from Romania? Really, because when we have smog in Brussels, you know, there's a smog, then they send trucks, and I think it's ironical, but okay, they send trucks to Romania to get air because it's the cheapest air, everybody knows it, you know, and you get all the air in the truck, and then you drive back, and then you release the air to, you know, go against the smog. Yeah, it's air, but it doesn't belong to everyone. I mean, you can buy it, you pay taxes. If you fly to it with the airplane, you have to, it doesn't belong to everyone anymore, like everybody gets the same right to the same amount of air. What? Snorting. Okay. Everybody, okay. There used to be a lot of commons, you know, land that belonged to everybody, or water. Like the sea you could just go into instead of paying taxes for the sea, or you get a fine because it's not the international. I mean, there are just a few international waters now, you know. And did you know that, by the way, there's no sea left that's not owned by a company? Did you know that? The bottom of the sea is divided between companies. There's no piece of bottom that is not paid by a company anymore. Not bottom, bottom. Okay. Song, music? Song. Okay. Song belongs to everyone. Well, not if you know, have to pay the rights. Anyway, there used to be many things that belong to everyone, right? And closing the commons means you put a big fence around what belongs to everyone, and it doesn't belong to everyone anymore. The first time this happened was in the 16th century, apparently. The first time this happened, you know, and the first time somebody wrote about it was Utopia, Thomas More. The great thing is people think he wrote a philosophy. He didn't. He wrote a book because he was a sheriff and he was a lawyer. He made a lot of money being a lawyer, you know. But then he saw this new thing happening in his country and it was like, whoa, I have to write a book. I have to write a book. You know, he didn't know that later the communists would base their ideas on this book and other people, you know. He just wrote a book because he thought something is wrong here. Because what was happening in England, right? All the grounds, all the land belonged to kings or to priests, but I mean, everybody could walk wherever they want and build houses wherever they wanted, except for the gardens of the king, you know? But for the rest, you could build your house. Common grounds, it belongs to everyone. And then you had sheep. Sheep walking around there, it was the export product, you know, sheep, wool, everything. And the noblemen, they exported the sheep, they made the money, and they were always thinking of new ideas to get more money and more power. You don't know the concept, we don't have those people anymore. But those people existed back then, you know? How can we have more money, more power? And I don't know why, but you know, I think they all got together once a week, let's say Wednesday night. Huh? They come together Wednesday night, all the noblemen sitting on big tables, drinking wine, having each other's sisters to touch and everything, you know? And suddenly, one nobleman says, guys, there were guys in back then, I have an idea to become more powerful. Whoa! All the sisters in the closet, all the wine down, please tell us. And he said, what if we destroy the houses on the land, destroy the churches, chase out the common people? We put more sheep, we put a big fence around our land, more grass, more sheep, 2 dogs, 1 guy, we make a big profit. What do you think? All the noblemen loved the idea. They were high-fiving each other, body bumping, all the sisters back on the table, everybody happy. And indeed, you know, a lot of houses torn down, a lot of churches torn down, and a lot of people in England in the 16th century walking around with nothing. They were evicted out of the country, they had to go away, no house, no nothing. But in those days, you know, if you were hungry, you had nothing to eat, what do? You steal something, like a bread, you steal a bread. But in those days, if you stole 1 bread, the judge chopped your head off. But the judge was the same nobleman who just kicked you out of your house. And this system, Thomas More said, nah, something strange. I'm going to write a book. This is not fair that this system is happening. Am I right, Lieven?
Well, because I think it's the most important page of this over-famous book, which I think is often misunderstood.
Thank you.
Why?
Martin, the other one.
Well, because...
Am I right, Lieven?
Exposing and criticizing, and showing how this is theft.
Yeah.
So the first part of Morris makes clear that theft, what we call theft, is a small thing that should not be punished. So don't punish the poor, punish the rich. Yeah. In fact, this is the message. I make it now into a very easy but very true slogan, because what happens today is a massive subsidizing of the rich and a massive punishment of the poor. And you can prove it. I could give you examples and examples and examples till you're bored and your whole documentary is spoiled.
No, but you don't.
But it is true. It's rock bottom. The statistics prove it. The oil companies are enclosing the commons in a way which is 20,000 times more horrendous than in Moore's times. They do fracking. They do tar sand oils. They do deep sea oil. And I could go on. It's the same for knowledge. It's the same for the pharma industries. They enclose the commons in a way that we should not tolerate anymore.
Look, I had no idea, right? I knew there was something that is called public, you know, that the state owns, and there's something called private that the companies have. That there's also something that belongs to all of us, I had no idea. That there was something that belongs to all of us, and it's less and less apparent. You can just leave without going like this, because now everybody pays attention anyway, so it's okay. Is it because I'm from Belgium? Is it not? It's not satisfying enough? Okay. No, but it's amazing to see how few things are left that belongs to all of us. It's incredible. It's not only nature, it's also education or information, you know, big data, to whom belongs information, or healthcare. I mean, if some countries don't even have healthcare anymore, countries like, for example, the Netherlands, they had healthcare, and now they changed it to make sure that not everybody has healthcare, you know. Social housing. In Poland, they stopped building social housing because, this is the government, you cannot make a profit from it, which is the essence of social housing. Public space, right? Public, to whom belongs the public space? What we do, wherever we go, we also did it this afternoon in Belgrade, right? Every time we go to a place, we let one of our people sit on a square. On the square, not on the bench, not on the terrace, in the middle of the square. What do you get? The first hour, people take pictures, give them some money, and that's it. Second hour, the police comes and says, why are you sitting on the square? Because it's a public space, I can sit here. No, you're disturbing the public space. And then we say, now you are disturbing the public space because you're talking. Now we are just sitting here. Well, you get a fine. It's 80 euros in Belgrade, which is less than in Holland, which is a good deal, you know. It's ridiculous. The public space that belongs to all of us. It's what makes us, right, Martin?
Modern society needs public space and needs public institutions.
Why?
Because otherwise we have no society, just individuals living close to each other.
Look, it started with some sheep, right? 500 years ago, some sheep that people were dividing the land. Now it's everywhere. We almost have nothing that belongs to all of us. And it's my generation who has to deal with it, or not. Could be that we don't give a damn. The good thing is that now I can say, yes, hooray! We do have some things to fight for. It's not a dance show. You paid for the dance show? Okay, okay. You'll get it later then. Law, chapter 4, ladies and gentlemen, out of 5-4. Let's talk about politics. Ha! No. Democracy. Officially, I say officially, in Europe, even here, officially, we live in a representative democracy, right?
Do you think that we vote and that we're part of decision making? No, of course we're not.
No, of course we're not. No, of course we're not. But for once he's correct, you know. For once he's correct. They did a survey, right, a research, in whole of Europe. Whatever you think of research or Europe or the word off, right? In the whole of Europe they did research. They asked people, do you still believe in politics? 70%, 70, of the people said no. So they asked people, why don't you believe in politics anymore? The people asked, and the people said, because we don't feel heard, we don't feel seen, it's not about us. Then you have a problem. Because that's what your whole system is based on, that some people represent other people. You know, if they don't feel it anymore, then you have a problem. Now, I'm not, so I don't know if it's true, but people have the feeling that politicians are only occupying themselves, with their party, you know? That they are taking Bonnekes yeah, that they are corrupt, that they're only dealing with
politicians are corrupt because politics is corruption. You must come to compromises, and that's corruption in a sense. That's normal in politics.
No, that's too easy. It's corruption, that's normal, that's how it goes. No. Democracy, power to and from the people. That means at one point there was no democracy. We said, you know what, we need it. Our forefathers, they fought for it, then we got it. It worked for a while, and now it's not working anymore. So we need an update, right? Like on your phone or on your girlfriend, you just do an update. It's not my words, the girlfriend. It's my father who said it one time just before he divorced my mother. And then I knew it was over. He took a girl that was 20 years younger, took her away from my brother. It's okay. It's another show. Anyway, you know, democracy means that it's up to us, the power to and from the people. If we say it doesn't work anymore, we can say, or we can say, no, let's change it. It's up to us. It's not working. Let's change it. Should be possible, no? What do you think, Raoul?
Yeah, sure. I do believe it.
He believes it, eh?
I think that we can really change democracy, and it's about that democracy should be a common practice, an extended practice of the citizens.
But to do it, you really have to involve people. And don't count that you can do it by Facebook or you can do it on a mass scale immediately. No. Today, it's very hard to go from social protest to social movement. This is why Indignados or Occupy Wall Street, they never turn to social movement.
This is Sławomir Sirakowski from Warsaw, Poland. And he said there's a big difference between social protest and social movement. Protest means you go on the street and you say no, 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 or yes, yes, yes to something. That's it. Movement means that you organize yourselves in such a way that you can actually change something. They did this in Poland, you know, the most tolerant country in the world. They did this because he's a journalist, and 15 years ago he graduated as a journalist. That means you cannot write what you want in Poland because it's so tolerant. You know? So what he did is he started online a newspaper. People could become, you know, could register themselves for the newspaper. So he wrote whatever he wanted. He invited people from the left, from the right, to write about what was happening. Everything that was not allowed by the normal, you know, by the politics. He became very popular. 30, 40, 50,000 people became member of his newspaper. And he continued, made it bigger, bigger, bigger. And when I met him, he had the third biggest organization in Poland, doing live shows, everything, but not a political party. And I said to him, to really make a change, what is the next step? Becoming a political party or what?
I'm not gonna do it by organizing party, but I can do it by organizing social pressure on the government.
They changed 5 laws in Poland. They are not a political party, but they changed 5 laws, like more rights for women and better pensions and more money for art. How did you change it again?
We organized a coalition of NGOs. We published first a guide on it. Then we published many books. We organized thousands of conferences. We taught many MPs. We, taught many journalists. We organized campaigns for 2 years, and then we changed it. Okay, and all the 5 biggest things were changed in the axis between certain ministries and NGOs, not on the axis between coalition and opposition. Okay,
I understand.
And it's more and more popular like this.
Yeah, but just a question. For whom are you doing this exactly?
Actually, everything is about the people.
The people?
Yeah.
Everyone.
Well, yeah, but I'm not stupid universalist. I mean, of course, I don't want to promise something to the people that I cannot take responsibility for, or I cannot really help them. This is why I don't believe in mass movements. Mm-hmm. I'm involving people one after another, face to face.
Okay, so involving people face to face with what purpose? Valerio?
To empower the citizens. in a large way.
And is that left or right, or doesn't mean anything with politics?
Don't matter left or right. I am on the left, but now what is left? No?
I don't know. Tell me.
No, left is about the social, is about to create integration by citizens, give power to citizens. But in our left government from Holland and Italy, from USA, does not exist. So it's a big problem. So we have even have the need to go over the category left and right. And so we try to organize the power of citizenship.
You have to trust the community power. Whatever you do in this age, it has to rely on a community.
We have to engage, that we cannot step out, we have to engage. And this is a movement that I also feel that I more and more, in a way, participate myself. And not only within my own work, but also within society, that I am really searching how to engage myself in this process of transformation. We all are part of.
Sorry, Lotte, what do you mean by process of transformation? What do you mean by that?
I think part of the transformation process is that we realize again that we are not consumers but citizens, that we are responsible.
And then she said responsible, and I'm thinking, ooh, that's dangerous. You know, we all have to do politics. You know, is that like the new truth then, Raoul? We all have to do it?
It's not about an utopia of everybody doing politics all the time. It's just about, that democracy is a commons, in the sense like a park.
I'm sorry, guys, sorry. I'm going to give you an example. I'm from Belgium, but I also live in Amsterdam. You know, the Netherlands, right? And they have a king in the Netherlands, and he said on the national television, he said, from now on, everybody who lives in Holland has to participate. We all live in a participatory society, we all have to participate. Is that like a wet dream for you guys, that the government says we have to participate? Valerio?
The important is not that the state say, okay, you are a good citizen, you and your community do it, because I have no money, you can do it. Yeah. That is something subsidiary, like the big society of Cameron, no?
Yeah.
I have no money, I prefer that you do it. Yeah. No, we say, community can decide how and when and where do it. That the big challenge.
No argument will organize people. No emotion. Emotion can organize social protest, but not social movement. The last thing, the last order, the last mean is common experience, doing something together, all right? So I don't believe in utopias. I believe in common experience, in this togetherness.
Okay, stop, guys, stop. First of all, it's a lot. Second of all, if I'm trying to understand what you guys are saying about the update of democracy, you guys are saying there will be an update. It's not about politics, politicians, left, right, it's not about opposition, it's about people, but they are not obliged, they don't have to. People who apparently will organize themselves without that everybody has to, but still they will organize themselves without becoming a party. Will they, then they will sort of change things. I had no idea what we're talking about. For me, it was all a little bit up here. So I said, I'm going to go to Belgrade. People will not understand. I don't understand. Maybe, guys, if you have an example of this new system. Is it happening somewhere? The new update system thing. No? No one? No? Raoul? You're looking at me with those giddy eyes. Tell me.
On the program of Ahora Madrid, it is planned to have
I was there in Madrid.
Juntas de
Please, thank you. I was there in Madrid. Did you hear about it? In Madrid? And in Barcelona, I was there when it happened. Shall I tell you what happened? I was there. You know, we came from Italy. We arrived in Madrid at night. Our guide was awaiting us. She was there standing, saying hi to our group. 24 years old, 1.65 meters, piercings in her face, 7 tattoos. I only saw one, but she claimed to have 7 tattoos, so. And she had blue hair, so we called her Smurf, which she liked. She loved the Smurfs, so. We took our luggage to the hotel. We went into Madrid, following Smurf everywhere she went. And I love Madrid. It's an amazing city. I've been there 2 times before, but this time it was different. The atmosphere in Madrid was buzzing. So many people on the street. So I said to Smurf, what's happening? She said, oh my God. She had an American English accent, which is not typical for a Spanish person, but it was because she did an internship at Disneyland in Florida. That's why she had an American English. Okay. Oh my God. Tomorrow is the most important day of Madrid ever. I said, why, Smurf? Because tomorrow the people will know if the people have won. What happened to be the case, we arrived in Madrid the day before the mayor elections. A new mayor had to be chosen in every city of Spain. Normally it's not a big thing, you know. It's a left corrupt party who wins or a right corrupt party who wins, and they deliver a corrupt mayor, you know. Nothing big. But for the first time ever, there was a candidate participating in the elections who was not from a party, from non-political party, just a person from the people. It's because they have this new system in Spain. Since 2008, I don't know if you remember in 2008 or heard about it, there was a financial crisis. Did you hear about it? It was a big thing on the news everywhere. In Spain, for example, it was terrible. Many people lost their work, lost their houses, everything. But something new came out of this, something good. Social networks. Something we in Belgium or Holland, we don't know. Social networks. That means everything the government fails to do or doesn't do any good anymore, and the private does way too expensive or too commercial, people do themselves. In neighborhoods, not in the city, in neighborhoods, rich and poor, left and right, together on one team or one topic at the same time. 20, 30 people on garbage disposal, 20, 30 people on taking care of the poor, every topic, its own group. But online, these groups meet, you know, in every different neighborhood. Social networks. Only Podemos became political. All the rest is non-political. But they are huge, some of those organizations, even though the group's only 20, 30 people each time. Well, 7 of those organizations decided before the elections, we want a mayor who has nothing to do with politics, just with running a city. So they looked in Madrid for a good candidate, and after some looking, they found her. Manuela Carmena. 71 years old, which is young. She's a judge, but retired. They went to her house, they knocked on her door, she opened the door, which is good for the study, otherwise it would be crazy, and then she said, hello. They said, Manuela Carmena, do you want to become our new mayor? And she said in Spanish, yes. Very good, sí. But she also said, I have no money, you know, for a campaign. It's so expensive. All the other people have. They said, look, look, look. If the people want you as a candidate, the people will pay for you. And they did a crowdfunding campaign for the new mayor. And the next day, we were on the big square of Madrid. We were filming. And suddenly, I had a screaming Smurf next to me. Oh my God! She has won. Manuela has won. And immediately I knew. Manuela had won. And from everywhere people came out of their house, out of the streets. The whole square was full with people shouting, dancing. But nobody was shouting or dancing, yes, we can. Everything will be different now. Things will be better. Nobody was saying that. People were saying, finally, we are heard. We are seen. It's about us. Because now they have a new system in Madrid, also in Barcelona, not in the other cities, Barcelona, Madrid, both women running the towns. It's representative democracy and direct democracy together. Representative, Manuela is chosen. You know, her managers are chosen. Everybody there is chosen. They run the city. They choose the And there are 7.5 million people in one city. It's like Flanders, you know, in one city. They choose the agenda, but for every topic, so not a referendum that everybody has to go, nobody goes, and you know, like they know in Holland doesn't work. Not a referendum, you know. Per topic, they go to the social networks who deal with that topic. And those networks can say, not this law, we have to change the law, we have to make it different, and together they have to make it different. And when together they decide, then the law passes. So it's direct democracy and representative democracy combined. Is this better than before? I don't know. Didn't we do that back in the 60s? I don't know. It's happening now. Do we all have to do it? No, it's an example of people trying to sit this one step, of people trying to go to more democracy. Look, if you travel to Europe, you see two tendencies happening. Some countries go to less democracy than before, like Hungary, for example, or Poland. Some countries go to more democracy, or try at least, you know, in cities, whatever, like Spain, for example. Oh yeah, and you also have countries that do nothing. Like Belgium, for example, not to mention the Netherlands, yes. I don't know about Serbia, I don't know. I know you're going to have a beautiful waterfront, so don't talk about the waterfront. Look, when there was a crisis in 2008, everybody was saying to the Spanish people, oh, you lazy bastard, you corrupt lazy bastard. But in this case, they are showing us the way. Do you know this song? Holland won with this song in the 70s. The Netherlands won with this song. Yeah. Well, the Netherlands won with this song. You have to listen to the text. It's the philosophy of the Netherlands. If you don't know what to do with life, sing ding-a-ding-a-dong. When your lover is gone, gone, gone. Maybe it's a bigot, even when your lover was gone, gone, gone. Sing ding-a-dong. Loving it. Alright, everything's alright. Ding, ding a dong. Ding, ding. Oh, by the way, Belgium also won. My country won just one time. We won with this song. I'm gonna translate. There we go. I love life. I love life. That's the Belgian philosophy. We send the minor and we win. Oh, you have to know this one. Do you know this one? Run! Remember? The woman with the beard, the man with the boobies. She had a beautiful dress, she was standing on Conchita Wurst, singing. Did you see it? Who watches every year? No one! Stop again. Who watches every year? Who's watching every year? 4 people. Really? Only 4 people? To the highlight of European culture? To the essence of democracy? You have an anti-Eurovision Song Festival? In Belgrade. Okay, you're watching that one. Okay. Australia also participated because it's a European country. They are very consistent in their laws. Eurovision Song Festival is very democratic, very consistent, and of a very high level. Morocco, no, of course not. They're also very discriminating to everyone, actually. And apparently a lot of people do not get the irony of my remarks, but it's okay. Chapter, ladies and gentlemen, is called Europe. It's the last chapter. It's amazing. These things are happening in Europe, right? And many more. But Europe is also happening in Europe. I know in Belgrade you have a very double attitude versus Europe. Or European Union, because Europe you're part of. European Union is, difficult. You wanted to be part, European Union treats you like shit. Now you don't want to be part of it, but still you do want to be part of it. It's double. It's all double. Trust me, we all have that feeling in the European Union as well. It's very interesting to see. Look, the European Union is the youngest political concept we have in the world, right? It's very young. And still a lot of people want to leave it already. The Brits, gone. The Dutch are #1 on the list to go. Of all the people in a country, the Dutch are the most who say, we also want to leave. You know? Why? I mean, it's not perfect, it's not working well, but it's the youngest political concept we have. I mean, there was never so few wars and so few dead people in the EU since the EU. Look, this is my comparison, right? The European Union is like a child. When you make a baby, some of you know how it works, the rest, you're too old now. But anyway, when you make a baby, right, first you have to train the baby, nurture the baby, then you put it on a potty. The moment the baby, for the first time, takes a dump on a potty, you're very happy, right? But it's still very young. Like the European Union is a child that took its first dump in a potty, right? It pissed next to the pot, and now it took its first dump in a potty. You don't say to a child like that, okay, after 2 years you can piss in a pot, right? But you still don't know how to read and write, back into your mother. You don't say that. But we do say to the European Union, you know, back to your mother. And if you do that, you just have a potty with some piss in it, right? It's a metaphor, but you can use it on Twitter. So, the European Union is a child that just learned to piss in a potty. That means it's going to make a lot of mistakes. It still has to go to puberty, fall in love, get a broken heart, get married, and you know how many years to come. But we don't like it, because we want results directly. Look, I asked the people I interview what they think of Europe. This is what they said. Europe, guys?
Well, I think Europe can play a very important role. A very important role. And it is letting us down in a major way on climate change, on all levels. I have never understood why Europeans have it so difficult to understand their own identity as one.
Identity always has been something difficult to explain. It was never easy. It was, and the people who said it was easy were wrong. It was always like this difficult thing. But now in Europe, with migration, for instance, with things like poverty, with things like ages that starts to shift, and how our idea of labor and poverty changes, these narratives of what all these simple things are become so difficult. We really need time and good storytelling to get it, to understand what is happening just.
That's why we need a moral revolution. We need to have people who think morally about what's happening, not just economically or scientifically, but morally. We have a moral crisis.
Do you remember the guy from the beginning from Greece, Poka? He said in his own words what the problem with Europe is. Poka?
I think it's a systemic failure, and this is the problem. We have this organization, this system, and we have this vision. Ideally, this should work in tandem. When the system tries to protect itself, most important than the vision, then you have a problem. This is what we have now. We don't say the vision is this. Let's try to change the system in order to serve the vision. No, we say this is the system should work and should remain working. Let's change the vision accordingly to fit this.
This is the problem. But the solution is much more difficult. Because it's not just changing Brussels. It's not just changing some old white men who are running Europe, because I don't know why, but apparently old white men love to run Europe, you know. But it's not just that. The next 20 years are going to be incredibly exciting and troubling at the same time. Why? And it's not just in Serbia, but it's also in my countries. There's going to be a lot of violence, the next 20 years. Because people are afraid. People have so much and they're afraid to lose it. You know? People now in Holland, for example, are saying we have to hold on to our Dutch identity. Which I think is funny, because when was that exactly that you're referring to? Which phase of your identity you're referring to? Because you used to be together with the Belgians. We are not the Dutch identity, you know. Then you will lose some of the Belgians. And they say, for example, we have our peanut butter. We are very proud of our peanut butter. You know, peanut butter has nothing to do with Holland. It's from Indonesia, you know. It's everything they refer to are things that are not typically Dutch. and they are holding on to things that are not typically Dutch, but people are afraid. So what you see is they're going to be, in the end, there will be more regional and more Europe, even in Serbia, trust me. But nationalistic, which is not a bad thing. In the 19th century, we needed it, nationalism. Now, you know, it's over. Not. Officially, we could do without, but we are afraid to let go. So what you will see is people will fight, people will kill each other and burn. In Western world as well, in Holland, in Belgium, people will kill each other for the next 20 years. It's going to be terrible. Really. But at the same time, it's up to us how we deal with this, what we do, because we can do many, many things. Not make a better world. Never, the world was never better than before, but make a world, make a step. And whatever the solution will be for the next years to deal with, three things are very important. It's what Simon said and what Lotte said. Simon said this.
We really need time and good storytelling to get it, to understand what is happening just.
And Lotte said this.
When I'm talking to somebody and I do not agree, it's of course very, very easy to walk away, but it's also very, very, not only interesting, it's also very important that you actually stay.
Time, stories, and that you stay. My dear ladies and gentlemen, and other people, these are the things I wanted to share with you. I know it's a lot, I know. I know it's a lot. For some of you, you don't even understand English, I can tell, but it's okay. I'm glad that you're here. But it's also not even everything. And I have often people who come to me and say, but what can we do? I mean, there's so much going to happen, you know. Are you not cynical or pessimistic? I said, no, I'm not pessimistic. I'm realist. There is going to be a lot of, you know, danger and trouble is going to be. But I'm a realist, you know. I think positive. Why? It's because nobody knows, which is amazing. Finally, we discovered that nobody knows the answer to life. Not Trump, clearly. Not Obama, not your leaders, not my leaders, not even my mother knows the answer to life. But the fact that we don't know, which makes a lot of people afraid, and they will fight for it, also makes us powerful. Because then we can communicate. I can communicate with people in a different land, in a different world, because we both don't know. And this, for example, Erasmus, the second best-selling book before 50 Shades of Grey, you know, in Europe, his name is on all kinds of university buildings and whatsoever. Why? Not because he said, I'm going to change the world, because he wrote a book, because he was bored. Really, he was going to his special friend Thomas More. It's a 3-day journey. He was bored, and he normally writes this very theoretical, Latin-based work nobody reads anymore, but this book, he says, in the first 3 pages of his book, he says, probably nobody's going to like it, you know, I'm going to get bad reviews, it's going to be in Dutch, who cares, you know, but I'm going to write it, probably nobody will like it anyway, for 3 pages, you know, but I have to do it because it's about this and then done. But he did it, he published it, and we are standing here still holding it. This is not the original cover, by the way, standing holding it. Why do I say this? Because the great thing is, you never know what you cause. Everything will change something. So the only thing you can do is feel what you have inside and take a step. But when you take it, really take it. Because you don't know what you can change, but you will change something. And how big that will become, you have no control of. So the next 20 years, yes, there will be a lot of trouble, but the great thing is, we are still here and we don't know. So whatever we do, whether we build a space like this to have these discussions, or whether we start the biggest organization of Poland, or whether we just write a book, or whether we stay in our bed, lie down, and eat chips all day because we say, fuck the world, if you do it, do it. Because then you will see what happens. The rest you have no control of, which is amazing, because it's the only way we can breathe and continue our lives together. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Martin. Thank you. Okay. If you have any questions, you can tell. If you have any criticism, you can say Martin. All content questions, you can ask me. If you have any questions, you can do it here or there. What you want to do, what you want to do, what you want to do. We'll meet up there then. If you have questions, I look like this. Yeah? So you recognize me then. Okay.